just something to keep in mind there. Facebook really, if you go for link clicks, they'll go with the placement. They'll give you the cheapest link clicks, and same things for video view. So my next point here was just the basic setup of campaigns, ads, and ad sets. So it's kind of similar to Google. So we have kind of 3 level. This is really basic, I know, but thought I'd share it. So we have campaigns. This is where you'll select your objective. So I'll just show you one real quick. So maybe I should just duplicate to show you guys. So I guess in terms of the objective, what we recommend, unless we're doing like a full funnel, setup, is always go for sales. This would be like the main objective. And then if we're doing lead gen, we could just select leads. But if we select sales, we can also select leads at the ad set level. So campaign is really just like the objective. We name the campaign. Of course, now we can have some budget at the campaign level, which doesn't make a big difference from the ad set level. So it's just a different spot for the campaigns. And then here, that's where you're gonna go select your actual goal. And for anything that's e-commerce, you can optimize for purchase. That's what I recommend, because often if you do like initiate checkout or add to cart, you'll have lots of add to cart, but very low purchase. So Facebook will often get people that are used to not completing their purchase. So yeah, that's a big thing. Of course, you can do like add to cart and then have a strong remarketing backend, but just as a best practice, always purchase here. And then you could also select leads. This one seems like there's no event there, so I can't select it, but you could select leads. But if you do anything that's e-com, I would recommend just going for lead at the objective level right there. Yeah, and now a quick thing is that now Facebook is pushing a website and shop. A little kind of like TikTok is doing that a little bit too. But on TikTok, you can select if you'd like the people to go to the website and shop. On Facebook, it's kind of one you select it, and then Facebook decides. So from my experience, most of the time it will go to the website, but selecting the shop sometimes gives you better CPMs and sometimes better results. So I would recommend testing those two things right there in terms of that. Yeah, so that's kind of for the ad set, that's kind of the first step here. Then we can put in our budget here, schedule, and then we go to the audience. So really, like the ad sets, I would say like it's all about the audience and the placement. So here, this is a broad ad set. So here you can put in like custom audience. So for custom audience, these would be like anything that's retargeting and lookalikes mostly. You can also save the audience, but lookalikes, for those who are not familiar with it, it's kind of, let's say you take your 5,000 buyers and you say, give me 10% of the United States that will look as similar to those 5,000 buyers. So that's really powerful. It's one of the best performing audience. So you can do that from 1% to 5%. So yeah, so that's kind of the custom audience. We can go deeper into those. What I recommend is, going with buyers if there's enough data. So you can go with buyers that have, repeat buyers or higher average order value if you have enough data, but sometimes you don't. So sometimes you'll have to go with website visitors or add to cart. And you can also do lookalikes of anyone that follow the page or that engage, but those are usually less quality than having a seed audience that's buyers. So that's kind of it for this section. And then here, of course, you can select your location, age, gender. And then here, this is the detailed targeting. So here you see like this is they're selling wood. So it's suggesting based on the historic and whatnot, like wood related interest, but these could be anything anything you can think of. Facebook removed quite a bit of those recently. So it's mostly like big keywords. So kind of like here you saw like carpentry. These are job titles, so this is pretty small. So that's something to keep in mind. But like, it's really like, it used to be really narrow, like you could target all the big pages, but now it's only like really big brands or really kind of keywords like woodworking, DIY, wood, stuff like that. And then you can see your size on the left right there once you select some. Yeah, and then here you have languages. So language, I recommend leave that open to all, especially in the United States. But if you go international and you just English, I would say narrow it down here. And just recently, Facebook kind of introduced their advantage audience. So this is kind of like it let Facebook go outside of your targeting, so it kind of use it as the base, but it's free to go outside. They're pushing that more and more, and I think they're even like applying automatically on some accounts right now. I think it's because of privacy and all of those restrictions that they want to really have the open. And what I found is really large audience. When you give a lot of inventory to Facebook, that's usually when it will perform well. I would say like 5 years back, when you would be like really small and targeted, that would often perform really well. But now it changed. It's really like Facebook has so much data on people that often just leave it broad. Even with the specific niche, Facebook is smart enough with the data it has on the business, and based on your ad, of course, it will optimize quite quickly. So it's quite powerful. So in terms of audience, I would say it's important, especially to test out the different types. But what will be the major factor will be on the ad level, which is the creative. Yeah, and the last step here in terms of ad set on the second level is the placement. So this is kind of all placement, which Facebook recommends. But you can also go manual placement. Let's say you just want to run into stories or just feed. You can remove those. Quick note about placement is, let's say you go with the objectives of video view. Sometimes Facebook will push to like just like shitty placement, like audience network or in-stream video ads. So just something to keep in mind there. Facebook really, if you go for link clicks, they'll go with the placement. They'll give you the cheapest link clicks, and same things for video view. So if you do those type of objective, just keep in mind of that. You can do a breakdown and see where everything is going. Yeah, so that's kind of the second step here. Let's do that. So yeah, that's the ad set level. You kind of have 3 tabs here. Hope everyone is following. So we have campaigns, ad sets. So campaigns, again, is kind of just the objective. Ad sets is where you're going to set your targeting and your placement mostly. And then the last step, which is the most important one, I would say, where performance is really like the major factor. So if there's a kind of 2 things to kind of be the golden rules, I would say, is to have a proper objective, of course. So I would say purchase for e-commerce. And then the second step is the creative. So if you have those, I would just, the audience matters, but often what I've found is that the same creative will either not perform or perform on the different type of audience. It will not be a huge game changer to go with different audience. So the focus will really be on the creative side. So yeah, so I guess let's dive in. And if anyone has any question or mention, yeah, please do.
Yeah, so about the budget, I've heard that we can set budgets on campaign level and also on ad set level.
Correct.
And I think in CXL course, they were recommending if you want to test audiences, then you should set budget on campaign level, so Facebook automatically decide which audience works, it will push more budget. So can we
Yeah.
get more clarity on that? I didn't understand what they were saying, but
Yeah, yeah. A couple of things. Yeah. So exactly what you just said. So let's say I can put my budget right here. Let's put $30 so it's clean. Or I could. So this, if I set the budget right there, inside of all of those ad set, the $30. I mean, let's say they're open. All right. Maybe I'll leave. I'll leave the broad and maybe an interest. Right. So let's say the budget, the $30 will go through either of those three, depending on what Facebook thinks will do best in terms of CBO. Or what you could do is remove it from here and then just set $10 for each. Now they're set to $20 as default, but you can just edit and set it to $10. So regarding that, I kind of prefer to have it either on the ad set level or just have one ad set inside a campaign. The reason is just for control, because often I've seen Facebook push more budgets towards the one audience that is not the best performing. So yeah, I kind of like to have control on it. Where I would kind of use that setup with multiple ad set is kind of where I'm really confident about my setup. I've tested it previously, but there's many different ways to set up your budget and whatnot. That I don't mean to I think best practices is you often can go wrong, but yeah, it's just that sometimes you have less control. So let's say one of the ad sets is performing better, but it has less of the spend allocated, then it becomes tricky. And then the less changes you make to the better. Those campaigns are kind of it depends on the brand and it depends on the campaigns. I would say some campaigns, I would say, I heard John said they have personalities, and I really agree with that. Some will be fine with budget change, and some will completely crash. And often the ones that will be more fragile is the smaller business with lower budget. So once you have something that's working well with those, I would try to make the less changes possible and kind of let the algorithm do its thing, if that makes sense. So yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it's kind of hit. But like, let's say I've set the budget on the CBO level. Here I can put in maximum. I'm sorry, that's not it. Here I can put in like maximum budgets. Let me see where that is. I can put it like a maximum or minimum, but often when we try to play with those, let me see, unless they went away for these guys, but there you go. Add entries in campaign setup. Yeah. Seems like this moved, but on most accounts, because they're doing a bunch of updates, but on most accounts on the budget side, you'll be able to set a maximum and a minimum. But often when I've started is when I start to play with that, just the performance drops. So that's kind of why I like to have control here. Yeah, that answers your question, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so Jonathan, my question is that you just mentioned that with audiences we can go broad in Facebook,
Yeah.
but it is the creative that drives the performance and sort of like directs the campaign into figuring out the right audiences.
That's right.
Can you explain that? Because we can design you get the videos from the client, you write the ad copy, but when you say that creative drives performance and it figures out the audience itself, like what do you really mean? If an example would be great.
Yeah, sure. What I kind of mean is that, like let's say you have one creative that is working really well, and you test it out with different audience. This will likely work well on most of the audience, but it's not the opposite. It's not the opposite. So like, let's say the audience these, they will kind of, I mean, I guess where I was going is not really the right concept I would want to say, but just like the creative, you can put it in different audience, and then in terms of the ad sets, the audience, if it's not performing with one audience, it's likely not going to perform with a different audience, even if it worked in the past. I would say this is not the major factor. Not sure if maybe I did some rambling here, but does that make sense? Or should I give more details about that?
Okay, so from what I understand is that you're trying to say that creatives drive performance, in the sense that if a creative is working for one audience, it still has the potential to work for other audiences. But if you test it out with one audience and it's not working there, then it still won't work across
Yeah.
other audiences.
Correct. That's
Okay.
exactly that. That's better said than I just did. Yeah.
So
Okay,
just
perfect.
to add on, like for example, if you are testing a new creative, do you test it on a specific audience and then go broad, or do you go broad and
Yeah,
then?
I mean, my favorite type of audiences would be lookalikes. So I would say like lookalikes 10% is what I've kind of my go-to audience. So, and there's a concept too called overlap inside Meta. So, Meta is supposed to not like when the audience is the exact same. So so I would, yeah. So, like my 10%, I kind of like to have the 10% lookalikes for the best performing creatives once I've seen it work. Push that, and then for creatives, potentially I'll test with the 5% or interest or broad. I kind of will see on the account what's performed the best, even though creatives is the main factor. So I'll usually test with that, but I'll switch it up. I'll test new creatives sometimes with broad if we don't have anything broad on the account, or interest. I'll try just slightly. Maybe I like to stack interest, so having a bunch of them. So just doing slight variation so Facebook doesn't see the overlap. And then if I have lookalike 10% running, for example, for testing audience, I maybe test it with 5% or 7%, just so it's different and there's not that overlap directly that Facebook sees. Because I think they cracked down on some kind of drop shipping people that were just duplicating winning campaigns like crazy over and over again. So they kind of pushed on overlap, and they kind of frame it as you're competing against yourself. So that's kind of why they recommend, I guess, a simpler setup, less campaign, less ad sets, and consolidate data. But often, depends on the accounts too. Some accounts handle well large budgets, but seems like it not too small budgets. Of course, you don't want to go like $10 or stuff like that. But seems like lower budget tends to get best performance, like $30, $40. Of course, it depends on the spend, and some accounts performs better than others. But just something to keep in mind when testing new creative. I would recommend just going not too big on the budget, because how I would explain it is that let's say I give it like a $50 a day. Facebook will try to go with really like the top, the best audience. But if you give more, I have to expand to fulfill your order of more budget, and then this is likely to, not always, but sometimes it will decrease performance. But again, that's always depending on the account performance. And what we see is that in terms of brand presence, when a brand has a strong online presence, it often works a lot better, I think, in terms of data, but also in terms of course, like brand recognition and brand awareness. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Got it.
In this call, we want to talk about the strategy between Google and Meta. So how the two platforms can work together. I think the key is to have consistency. We don't want to be misaligned in terms of the headlines or the offers. Ideally, for all the